Hello guys, welcome to Fictional Vortex. So in this video, we will see what if Naruto was the lost Targaryen prince and father of dragons. Naruto x Daenerys, Game of Thrones. If you enjoy these kinds of stories, don't forget to show us some love by hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. Your support means the world to us. Now, let's start the story. Chapter 1, Blood of the Dragon. Will a fire dragon soared through crimson skies, their scaled bodies gleaming like molten gold in the dying sunlight. Beneath them, a city burned, white stone blackening under relentless flame. Among the chaos stood a solitary figure with silver gold hair, his back turned as buildings crumbled around him. "Who are you?" Naruto called out, voice echoing strangely in the dreamscape. The figure began to turn, revealing a profile hauntingly familiar yet utterly foreign. Just as their eyes were about to meet, Naruto bolted upright on his bedroll, gasping for breath. Sweat plastered blonde hair against his forehead as the pre-dawn air chilled his overheated skin. The same dream, more vivid than ever. Outside his tent, birds were only just beginning their morning songs in the forests outside Konoha, where he'd been camping to train in solitude. "Third time this week," he muttered, rubbing calloused hands over whiskered cheeks. At 21, the markings had deepened, giving his otherwise matured features a feral quality when angered. Within his mind, a deep voice rumbled. "These dreams are not mere phantasms, Kit. You've been suspiciously quiet about them until now, Kurama," Naruto replied aloud, stretching as he rose. Years of partnership had evolved their relationship from prisoner and jailer to something approaching friendship, albeit one fraught with the fox's perpetual sardonic commentary. Because until now, they were merely echoes. This was a call. Naruto paused in the midst of pulling on his customary black and orange jacket, now styled longer, more reminiscent of his father's. A call from what? Something ancient. Something that shares blood with you that isn't mine. Before Naruto could demand clarification, a sharp pain lanced through his abdomen. Yanking up his mesh undershirt, he watched in alarm as an unfamiliar pattern burned itself into existence around his navel, surrounding but not replacing the 8-trigram seal. Spiraling whorls resembling flames encircled the original seal, pulsing with an angry red light that wasn't Kurama's chakra. The pain intensified, driving Naruto to his knees as the forest around him began to warp and distort. "What's happening?" he gasped, fighting to maintain consciousness as trees seemed to bend toward him, reality itself folding inward. "Someone is pulling you through. Fight it, Naruto." The Nine-Tails chakra surged in response, orange energy battling against the crimson patterns. Their clash sent shockwaves through the clearing, uprooting saplings and scorching the earth in expanding rings. "I can't," Naruto managed before the world violently contracted. A sensation of being compressed into impossibly small space, then hurled across vast distances seized him. Colors streaked past in nauseating blurs. Screams echoed, his own, Kurama's, and others unknown, blending into a terrible cacophony. Through it all, he caught glimpses of unfamiliar landscapes, vast deserts, towering ice walls, and a throne made of countless swords. Then, merciful darkness. Cold. Bone-deep, breath-stealing cold unlike anything in Fire Country. Naruto's consciousness returned grudgingly, his body registering the shocking temperature before his mind fully awakened. Flat on his back, he found himself staring up at towering evergreens dusted with snow, their needles forming a canopy through which gray skies peeked. "Where?" His voice emerged as steam in the frigid air. Attempting to sit triggered waves of nausea and disorientation. "Kurama." Relief flooded him at the fox's familiar grumble. "I'm here." "Barely. Whatever jutsu transported us drained significant chakra." Naruto forced himself upright, taking stock of surroundings entirely unlike the forest he'd left. Ancient pines stretched skyward, their massive trunks covered in moss despite the cold. Snow patched the ground, though not deeply, early winter, perhaps, or late fall. No signs of human presence appeared in any direction. "Any idea where we are?" He stamped his feet, trying to restore circulation while gathering natural energy to sense for nearby chakra signatures. Not our world. What? The nature chakra here feels fundamentally different. Older. Wilder. The connection between us feels altered as well. Testing this, Naruto attempted to summon Kurama's chakra. Orange energy flickered around him, but instead of manifesting as his usual chakra cloak, tongues of actual flame danced along his skin without burning him. "That's new," he murmured, experimentally directing the fire to envelop his hand. "Our energies are adapting to this realm's natural laws." Fascinating. Fascinating isn't the word I'd use, Naruto muttered, extinguishing the flames with a thought. "I need to figure out where civilization is and how to get home." Rising to his full height, he leapt to the nearest tree branch, intending to gain elevation for better visibility. His normally effortless jump fell short, fingers barely catching the rough bark as he scrambled ungracefully onto the limb. Chakra control is completely off, he realized, carefully standing. From his vantage point, endless forest stretched in most directions, but to the north, he glimpsed what might be smoke from hearth fires. More significantly, he spotted a road, little more than a dirt track, winding through the trees less than a kilometer east. The distant sound of hoofbeats prompted Naruto to flatten himself against the trunk. Through gaps in the foliage, he observed a party of riders approaching at speed along the road, 8 men in leather and furs, their breath clouding around grim faces. Most notable was their apparent leader, a young man with auburn hair and a bearing that reminded Naruto eerily of diplomatic escorts for visiting daimyo. "Swear the disturbance came from this direction," one rider was saying as they drew nearer. "Like a thunderclap without sound. The small folk speak of fell magic in these woods," another commented. "Perhaps we should return with more men, Your Grace." "Your Grace." "Royalty, then." "We'll investigate now," the auburn-haired leader responded firmly. "If Lannister forces have somehow flanked us through the Wolfswood, every moment counts." Wolfswood? Lannister? Naruto committed the unfamiliar terms to memory as the riders passed beneath his position and continued westward, toward where he'd awakened. "They're heading straight for the chakra discharge area," he whispered to Kurama. "I'm following them. Cautiously. We don't know the political situation here, and your abilities are unpredictable currently." Keeping to the trees, moving more carefully now with his hampered abilities, Naruto shadowed the riders until they reached the small clearing where he'd arrived. Scorch marks radiated outward from a central point, the ground blackened in perfect circles. Snow had melted in a precise pattern, revealing symbols scorched into the earth that resembled neither Fuinjutsu nor any writing system Naruto recognized. The riders dismounted, approaching the markings warily. "What manner of wildfire is this?" the leader murmured, crouching to examine the symbols. "Theon, have you seen anything like this beyond the wall?" A dark-haired young man shook his head. "Nothing, Rob. Not even the stories speak of such perfect patterns." "Your Grace," an older, bearded man interrupted. "We should return to Winterfell. This reeks of sorcery beyond our understanding." Winterfell. Another name to remember, Kurama noted. The leader, Rob, nodded reluctantly. "We'll send ravens to the citadel. Perhaps the maesters," his words cut short as shouts erupted from their rear guard. Naruto's attention snapped toward the commotion, where riders in crimson suddenly burst from the trees, at least 20. Heavily armored and carrying drawn steel. "Ambush!" Rob shouted, drawing his own sword. "To arms!" The forest erupted in chaos. Outnumbered, Rob's men formed a protective circle around him, but the attackers' superior numbers quickly began to tell. Blood stained snow as the first defenders fell. Naruto hesitated only briefly. Whatever world this was, whatever strange politics were at play, he couldn't watch good men slaughtered without intervention. Dropping from his perch, he landed in a crouch behind the ambushers' lines. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. The familiar technique responded differently. Instead of the usual puff of smoke, his clones materialized amid dancing flames that vanished as quickly as they appeared. 5 perfect duplicates stood ready, the technique draining far more chakra than normal. Interesting, one clone commented before all 6 Narutos launched themselves at the attacker's rear. The first red-cloaked soldier barely had time to register surprise before Naruto's fist connected with his jaw, sending him flying into 2 companions. Another attacker wheeled, sword slashing toward Naruto's throat, only to clang harmlessly against a kunai that glowed orange-red with channeled chakra. What manner of demon? The man gasped before a clone's roundhouse kick separated him from consciousness. Fighting in this new realm required adjustments. Naruto found his strength and speed diminished but still far beyond ordinary humans. What truly differed was how his chakra manifested, every technique producing flames or heat where none had existed before. Even as his clones dispatched half the ambushers in moments, Naruto observed Rob fighting with impressive skill, his sword moving in practiced arcs that spoke of years of training. The young leader's guards had rallied, inspired by the unexpected assistance. The battle's tide turned decisively when Naruto formed his signature technique. The Rasengan coalesced in his palm, not as a sphere of pure chakra, but as a swirling orb of golden flame that illuminated the clearing with daylight intensity. Surrender or retreat, Naruto called to the remaining attackers, holding the blazing technique aloft. I have no quarrel with you, but I won't allow a massacre. Most threw down weapons immediately, faces pale with terror. 3 braver souls charged him together, and Naruto reluctantly slammed his modified Rasengan into the ground before them. The explosion sent them tumbling backward without serious injury, but left a crater of superheated glass where snow had been. Silence fell across the clearing. Rob Stark, blood streaming from a shallow cut above his eye, stared at Naruto with an expression balanced between gratitude and suspicion. His remaining men formed a protective semicircle, swords still drawn. I mean no harm, Naruto said, raising empty hands. I saw an unfair fight and acted. You appeared from nowhere, wielding fire without oil or pitch, the bearded advisor said cautiously. What are you? Naruto considered his response carefully. A traveler, very far from home. My name is Naruto Uzumaki. Truth enough, without complications, Kurama approved. Rob stepped forward, studying Naruto with intense blue eyes. Those markings on your face. Are you of the wildling tribes? I'm not familiar with that term. Where I come from, these marks are a birthright. Before further questions could arise, a girl's scream pierced the forest, young, terrified, from somewhere eastward. Rob's head snapped toward the sound, color draining from his face. Arya, he gasped. She was riding with Beth Castle, they must have fallen behind. Without waiting for command, his men mounted quickly, but Naruto was already moving, chakra enhancing his speed despite the strange new limitations. I'll find her, he called over his shoulder, racing through the trees. Kit, conserve energy. We don't know how long recovery takes here. No time, Naruto muttered, following the sounds of struggle to a small brook about half a kilometer away. There he found a girl of perhaps 12. Dark-haired and fierce-eyed despite her predicament. She stood protectively over the prone form of another girl, wielding a slender sword that seemed made for her small stature. Facing her were 3 men, not in the crimson of the ambushers, but ragged leathers bearing no insignia. Little wolf bitch, one growled, sporting a bleeding gash along his arm that spoke to the girl's unexpected skill. That sword will fetch a pretty price after we've dealt with you. Touch me and my brother will feed you to our dire wolves, the girl, presumably Arya, spat back, her blade never wavering despite obvious fatigue. Naruto announced himself by landing between Arya and her attackers, the impact cracking the frozen ground beneath his feet. 3 grown men against 1 child, he said conversationally, though his eyes had hardened to chips of blue ice. Where I come from, we call that cowardice. The men exchanged uncertain glances, taking in his strange appearance and sudden arrival. This isn't your concern, foreigner, their apparent leader said. Walk away. I'm making it my concern. Naruto didn't draw a weapon. He didn't need to. When they rushed him simultaneously, he moved with practiced efficiency. The first man's knife thrust met empty air as Naruto sidestepped, delivering a palm strike that collapsed the attacker's lung. The second received a sweep that shattered his knee. The leader managed to slice a shallow cut across Naruto's forearm before a chakra-enhanced uppercut launched him several meters backward into the brook. Naruto turned to find Arya staring at him, sword still raised, now pointing at him. "Are you one of the Lannisters' Sellswords?" she demanded, voice remarkably steady. "I don't know who the Lannisters are," he replied truthfully. "I heard you scream and came to help. Your brother Robb is on his way." The mention of her brother caused visible relief, though she maintained her guard. "How do you know Robb?" "We just met. I helped him with some trouble back there." Naruto gestured vaguely westward before kneeling beside the unconscious girl. "Is your friend injured?" "Beth fell from her horse when they ambushed us. She hit her head." Naruto gently examined the girl, finding a significant lump but no blood or fracture. "She'll have a terrible headache, but should recover. May I check you for injuries?" Arya hesitated, then nodded, finally lowering her sword. "Who are you? Your clothes are strange, and those marks." "My name is Naruto Uzumaki. I'm not from around here." Clearly, she snorted, some of her spirit returning. "You fight like no one I've ever seen. Not even Sirio moves that fast." The thundering of hooves announced Robb's arrival with his remaining men. The young lord practically leapt from his mount, rushing to embrace his sister. "Arya." When we heard your scream, he held her at arm's length, examining her for wounds. "I'm fine," she insisted. "They surprised us, but I remembered what Sirio taught me. Swift as a deer, quiet as a shadow." "You held off 3 men?" Robb asked, incredulous. "I stabbed one," she admitted with surprising pride. "Then he came." She pointed at Naruto. "He fights like magic, Robb. Like the stories old Nan tells about the Roiner water wizards." All eyes turned to Naruto, who merely shrugged. "Where I come from, such skills aren't uncommon." "And where exactly is that?" Robb asked, his gratitude visibly warring with suspicion. "Be careful here," Kurama cautioned. "We need allies, not accusations of madness." "A land far across the seas," Naruto answered vaguely. "I was transported here against my will. I'm trying to understand this place myself." The bearded advisor had been examining the symbols burned into Naruto's discarded jacket, his expression growing troubled. "Your Grace, these patterns, they resemble ancient Valyrian script, from before the Doom." A murmur ran through the gathered men. Robb's gaze intensified. "Whatever his origins, he saved both you and Arya today," he said finally. "Naruto Uzumaki, I am Robb Stark, acting Lord of Winterfell and Warden of the North in my father's absence. You will accompany us to Winterfell where we can speak further, and where our maester can tend that wound." Naruto glanced at his arm, where the shallow cut had already begun healing at an accelerated rate. "It's nothing serious, but I accept your invitation. I have many questions myself." As Beth Castle was carefully placed on a horse with Arya, and the surviving attackers bound for transport, Naruto found himself provided a mount of his own, a courtesy that spoke to Robb's complex judgment of his status as neither prisoner nor trusted guest. These men weren't Lannister forces, Theon observed quietly to Robb as they prepared to depart. "Common brigands, taking advantage of stretched patrols. The war pulls our attention south while our own lands grow vulnerable," Robb agreed grimly. "All the more reason father must succeed in King's Landing. This realm is at war," Kurama noted. "Complicated." "Just our luck," Naruto responded silently. Winterfell rose from the rolling hills like something from ancient legend, massive stone walls surrounding a sprawling complex of towers and buildings unlike any architecture in the 5 great nations. Where Konoha blended harmoniously with its forest surroundings, this fortress stood in stark defiance of the harsh landscape, gray stone against white snow and dark pines. Steam rose from within its walls, prompting Naruto to raise questioning eyebrows at Arya, who had insisted on riding alongside him. Hot springs beneath the castle, she explained proudly. The water runs through the walls and keeps Winterfell warm even in the worst winters. And this isn't even close to a bad winter. You've seen worse. She shook her head. Not me. But old Nan says the last winter before I was born, the snow piled higher than the first-floor windows, and wolves grew bold enough to howl at the hunter's gate. As they passed beneath the towering main gate, Naruto felt innumerable eyes tracking their progress, guards on the walls, servants pausing in their work, curious onlookers from every window and doorway. His unusual appearance drew particular attention, whispers following in their wake. The courtyard bustled with activity despite the cold, blacksmiths hammering, kennelmen tending to hounds, stable boys rushing to take their mounts. Overhead, ravens circled the rookery tower, their harsh calls cutting through other sounds. Rob dismounted smoothly, handing his reins to a waiting groom. Maester Luwin will want to examine Beth immediately. Arya, you should see him as well. I'm not hurt, she protested. Humor me, her brother replied firmly. A round-faced boy pushed through onlookers, anxiety etched across his features. Rob. We heard there was fighting, just brigands, Bran. Nothing to concern yourself with. Rob ruffled the boy's hair affectionately before turning to Naruto. My brother, Brandon Stark. Bran, this is Naruto Uzumaki, who aided us in the Wolfswood. The boy's eyes widened, taking in Naruto's appearance. Are those marks painted on? Like wildling battle signs? They're natural, Naruto replied, crouching to meet the boy at eye level. I've had them since birth. Like a dire wolf's markings, Bran said thoughtfully. We have dire wolves now. Do you want to see them? Bran, Rob interrupted with the patience of an often-tested older brother. Our guest needs rest and refreshment first. Perhaps later. A small, elderly man in gray robes approached, heavy chain of many metals clinking around his neck. His sharp eyes missed nothing as he took in the returning party. Your Grace, Lady Arya. We received word of disturbances in the Wolfswood. Brigands, Maester Luwin, nothing more. Though Beth Castle requires your attention, a fall from her horse. As the Maester examined the still unconscious girl, Rob turned to Naruto. You'll join us for the evening meal after you've had opportunity to refresh yourself. I've many questions, and I suspect you do as well. More than I can count, Naruto agreed. A steward led him to guest quarters in one of the inner buildings, simple but comfortable, with a hearth already lit against the northern chill and a copper tub being filled with steaming water by serving women who cast curious glances his way. Once alone, Naruto sank onto the bed, the events of the day finally catching up to him. This world is nothing like ours, he murmured to Kurama. No visible chakra use, different weapons, different politics. Different, yet I sense strange familiarity in some aspects, the fox replied. That marking the advisor noticed on your jacket troubles me. If they recognized it, then it's connected to this world somehow. Naruto examined the strange seal pattern that had burned itself around his original seal. The redness had faded, leaving silvery lines resembling scales around his navel. What aren't you telling me, Kurama? The fox remained uncharacteristically hesitant. There are legends, even among the tailed beasts, of worlds beyond our own. The Sage of Six Paths spoke of realms where chakra manifested differently, as elemental magic, primarily. Your fire manipulation here may be related. But why would I be pulled to this specific world? That remains unclear. But I suspect the answer lies in that seal, and in your heritage. Naruto frowned. My parents? But they were from our world. Minato and Kushina, perhaps. Or perhaps not entirely. Kurama's voice held unusual uncertainty. Rest now. Recover your strength. This evening may bring answers, or more questions. The fox retreated into silence, leaving Naruto to bathe and change into clean clothes provided by the castle staff, simple but well-made garments of wool and leather that felt strange after a lifetime in shinobi attire. He kept his headband, however, the metal plate with Konoha's leaf symbol, the most tangible connection to home. The great hall of Winterfell hummed with conversation as Naruto entered, following a servant's guidance. Dozens of trestle tables filled the space, arranged perpendicular to a raised platform where Robb Stark sat with his family and closest advisors. Overhead, massive wooden rafters disappeared into shadow, while mounted dire wolf heads, the Stark sigil, he'd learned, adorned the walls between hanging banners. Conversation faltered as he approached, curious eyes following his progress. Robb gestured to an empty place at the high table, a significant honor Naruto recognized from diplomatic missions with Tsunade. "Naruto Uzumaki," Robb announced as he reached the dais. "Be welcome at our table." Seated along the high table were Arya, young Bran, and several others Naruto hadn't yet met, including a striking auburn-haired woman whose resemblance to Robb marked her as his mother, and a solemn, dark-haired young man with watchful eyes. "May I present my lady mother, Catelyn Stark," Robb continued with formal courtesy. "My brother Rickon, my father's ward Theon Greyjoy, and our master-at-arms, Ser Roderick Castle." "You honor me," Naruto replied, attempting to match their ceremonial politeness. "And I thank you for your hospitality." Lady Catelyn's smile remained diplomatic but cool. "We are grateful for your assistance to my children in the Wolfswood, though circumstances of your appearance remain curious." "Mother," Robb interjected, "such discussions can wait until after we've dined." The meal proved hearty: roasted meats, root vegetables, dark bread, and strong ale. Naruto ate with appreciation, though he privately lamented the absence of ramen. Throughout the dinner, he observed the complex social dynamics, servants moving with practiced efficiency, lesser lords addressing Robb with deference tinged with evaluation, Catelyn's careful monitoring of all interactions. "They're at war," Kurama reminded. "And the father, the true lord, is absent. Every action carries political weight here." When the formal dinner concluded and many lesser tables had cleared, Robb led a smaller party to a side chamber. A massive map covered the central table, the north, Naruto realized, with Winterfell prominently marked. Wooden markers represented troop movements and positions. "Now," Robb said, when servants had provided wine and withdrawn, "I believe we have matters to discuss." Over the next hour, Naruto provided a carefully edited account of his arrival, explaining chakra as a spiritual energy from his homeland without delving into Kurama's existence or the complexities of Jinchuriki. He demonstrated basic techniques, creating a small Rasengan that manifested as swirling flame rather than pure chakra. "In my land, this would be blue energy, not fire," he explained, letting the technique dissipate. "Something about crossing between worlds has changed how my abilities manifest." "And you have no knowledge of how you came to be here?" Maester Lewin asked, fascination overcoming initial skepticism. "Only that this seal appeared," Naruto replied, revealing the silvery markings around his navel. "It activated without warning." The maester leaned closer, eyes widening. "These patterns, they resemble Valyrian glyphs, but arranged in configurations I've never seen." High Valyrian was the language of Dragon Lords before the Doom. Dragon Lords? Naruto's attention sharpened. The Valyrian freehold was ruled by families who controlled dragons, Catelyn explained. "They're extinct now, save for the Targaryens, and the last dragons died over a century ago." "Targaryens," Naruto repeated, the name resonating strangely. "Who are they?" "The former royal house of Westeros," Robb answered. "Overthrown 15 years ago when King Robert took the throne. The last Targaryens fled across the narrow sea." "The silver-haired man from your dreams," Kurama noted with significance. The conversation shifted to current politics, the execution of Lord Stark in King's Landing, the North's rebellion against the Iron Throne, alliances forming and dissolving across the continent. Naruto listened intently, building a mental map of this complex world. And now my father's killer sits the Iron Throne while his grandfather orchestrates war against us, Robb concluded grimly. I've called the banners. The North remembers. Maester Luwin, who had been examining reference texts throughout their discussion, suddenly straightened. My lord, I believe I've found something. He presented an ancient, crumbling scroll. This account from the Citadel describes a similar seal in connection with Targaryen blood magic, specifically, rituals to protect royal children. What does it say? Caitlin asked, leaning forward. It's fragmentary, but speaks of pathways between worlds and sanctuary beyond the known realms. Most significantly, it mentions the spell activating only for those of the blood of the dragon, when great need arises. All eyes turned to Naruto. You believe I'm connected to these Targaryens? He asked, disbelief evident. That's impossible. I know my parents, they were from my world. Perhaps, the Maester said carefully, but magic often works in unexpected ways across generations. The spell may recognize something in your bloodline, distant though it might be. Robb studied Naruto with renewed intensity. There's one way to test the theory. The God's Wood contains a hidden chamber few know about, discovered during my grandfather's time. It holds artifacts from throughout Winterfell's history, including Targaryen items from when they visited the north. You think they might react to me somehow? If Maester Luwin's theory has merit. Night had fallen by the time their small party, Robb, Caitlin, Luwin, and Naruto, entered the God's Wood, a 3-acre forest enclosed within Winterfell's walls. Ancient trees created a canopy that blocked stars and moonlight, while snow crunched beneath their boots. Steam rose from a small pool near the massive heart tree, whose carved face seemed to watch their progress with knowing eyes. The entrance is beneath the weirwood's roots, Robb explained, moving carefully around the bone-white trunk. My father showed it to me before departing for King's Landing. A narrow passage, concealed by roots and earth, led downward into darkness. Torches illuminated rough-hewn steps descending into a chamber that predated the castle itself. Stone shelves lined walls carved directly from bedrock, holding objects spanning centuries, weapons, scrolls, jewelry, and items Naruto couldn't identify. There, Maester Luwin indicated a small chest inlaid with red enamel. A gift from Queen Alysanne during her visit to the north. It contains a dragon egg, petrified with age, but preserved as a gesture of goodwill. Robb unlocked the chest with a key from his belt, revealing an object roughly the size of a large melon. The egg's surface resembled polished stone, primarily black with swirls of crimson that caught torchlight like veins of blood. May I? Naruto asked, inexplicably drawn to it. Robb nodded, watching closely as Naruto lifted the egg. The moment his fingers touched the surface, two things happened simultaneously. The silvery seal around his navel flared with brilliant light, and the egg, supposedly petrified for centuries, grew warm. Impossible, Caitlin whispered as the egg's surface began to glow where Naruto's fingers pressed against it. Within Naruto's mindscape, Kurama stirred with sudden alertness. There is your answer, Kit. You carry the blood this spell seeks, dragon blood. How? Naruto asked aloud, unable to tear his eyes from the increasingly warm egg. How could I be connected to this world's bloodlines? Before anyone could answer, the chamber's far wall shimmered and seemed to part like water, revealing a hidden alcove untouched for generations. Inside lay a single scroll case made of unfamiliar silvery metal, emblazoned with a 3-headed dragon sigil. The Targaryen seal, Luwin breathed. I've never seen this chamber before. Nor I, Robb admitted. Not even father mentioned it. Carefully placing the egg back in its chest, Naruto approached the alcove. The scroll case seemed to pulse with its own inner light, responding to his proximity. When he touched it, the lid unsealed itself without resistance. The parchment within remained perfectly preserved despite obvious age. The writing combined unfamiliar script with what appeared to be annotations in kanji, impossible, yet undeniable. I can read parts of this, Naruto said in amazement. These characters are from my world, but the rest. High Valyrian, Lewin confirmed, peering over his shoulder. The language of old Valyria. Together, they pieced together the scroll's contents, a record of extraordinary events from over 2 decades ago. It spoke of a Targaryen prince, Rhaegar, who discovered ancient magic connecting distant realms. Of a first marriage, secret and annulled, that produced a son bearing special markings. Of a desperate ritual during Robert's rebellion to send the infant to another world for protection when the Targaryen dynasty faced extinction. Most shocking were the final lines, written in kanji with a mother's desperate hand, "To whoever finds my son, his name is Naruto, after the maelstrom that brought him to us. Though born of dragon's blood in another world, he is now our child in this one. May he one day understand both halves of his heritage. May the will of fire and the blood of the dragon both run strong in his veins." Kushina Uzumaki. Naruto stared at the familiar name, written in his mother's hand, mind reeling with implications. "This can't be real," he whispered. "I was born in Konoha. My father was the 4th Hokage." "The seal," Lewin said gently. "It brought you back when the bloodline faced threat again. The last Targaryens, your family by blood, are in grave danger once more." "I don't even know them," Naruto protested. "My life, my friends, everything I care about is in my world." Caitlyn's expression softened with motherly understanding. "The parents who raised you are no less your family for this revelation. But if this is true, you have blood kin in this world who may need you, who may be the key to your return home." Rob studied the map included with the scroll. "According to this, your closest blood relative would be Daenerys Targaryen, daughter of the Mad King, sister to your father Rhaegar. Last reports place her across the narrow sea with the Dothraki." Naruto traced the unfamiliar coastlines with his finger, mind struggling to process revelations that rewrote his very identity. "I need to find her. Not just for answers, but because. Because she's family," Kurama finished quietly. "And you've never turned your back on family." "There's more," Lewin said, translating further passages. "The scroll mentions awakening what sleeps in stone and the union of foxfire and dragon flame. I believe it suggests you possess the ability to hatch dragon eggs, something not seen in centuries." In the silence that followed, Naruto felt the weight of new knowledge pressing upon him, a heritage spanning worlds, a bloodline thought extinct, and powers not yet fully understood. "I came here by accident," he said finally. "But I don't think my return will be as simple as reactivating the seal. Whatever brought me here wants me to find these answers first." Rob nodded gravely. "The North remembers its allies, Naruto Uzumaki Targaryen. We will help you reach Essos when the time comes. But first, you should learn more of this world, and what it means to carry the blood you do." Targaryen, Naruto tested the name, foreign yet somehow fitting alongside Uzumaki. "Half shinobi, half dragon lord. A most interesting combination." Kurama mused with rare approval. "Perhaps fate has larger plans for you than either world anticipated." Weeks passed as Naruto acclimated to life in Winterfell, absorbing knowledge of Westeros while experimenting with his altered abilities. The revelation of his heritage spread among the castle's inhabitants, generating wary fascination. Some servants made protective signs when he passed, others sought glimpses of his training sessions where flames danced to his command in ways no pyromancer could manage. His friendship with Arya deepened quickly, the girl's defiant spirit and martial interests creating natural bonds. She insisted he observe her dancing lessons, then begged him to supplement Sirio Faro's water dancer teachings with shinobi techniques. "Your footwork is excellent," Naruto commented during one such session in a secluded courtyard. "But you rely too heavily on what you can see. Close your eyes." "But then I can't, try." Reluctantly, she complied. Naruto circled silently, then tossed a small pebble toward her left shoulder. Without opening her eyes, she tilted her head, hearing rather than seeing the projectile. "Good," he approved. "In my world, even children learn to sense chakra, energy, around them. Here, you must develop other senses just as keenly. Bran proved equally eager for Naruto's company, particularly after discovering the shinobi could walk up walls with ease. The boy's eyes shone with wonder as Naruto demonstrated chakra control techniques. Before my fall, I climbed everything in Winterfell, Bran confided during one such demonstration. The highest towers, the oldest walls, nothing was beyond me. The fall took your legs, not your spirit, Naruto replied, crouching beside the wheeled chair Winterfell's craftsman had constructed. In my world, there was a shinobi named Might Guy who fought incredible battles despite similar limitations. Could you teach me to use chakra like you do? Naruto considered carefully. I can try. Your energy feels different from people in my world, but there might be ways to adapt the training. With Rob, their relationship evolved from cautious alliance to genuine respect. The young lord, barely older than Naruto himself, carried immense burdens as war loomed. During late-night strategy sessions, Naruto's tactical experience proved valuable, his perspective unclouded by generational feuds or political entanglements. Your shinobi operate differently than knights, Rob observed one evening as they studied battle maps. Less concerned with honor, more with effectiveness. There's honor in protecting what matters, Naruto countered. But getting your people killed for the sake of tradition or appearance isn't honorable, it's wasteful. Rob nodded thoughtfully. My father valued honor above all. I wonder if that contributed to his fate in King's Landing. Honor without wisdom becomes rigidity, Naruto said, thinking of similar lessons from Jiraiya. The strongest trees bend with storms rather than breaking. One visitor to Winterfell took particular interest in Naruto, Talisa Mager, a healer from distant Volantis who had come north to tend battle casualties. Her approach to medicine fascinated Naruto, so different from Sakura's chakra-based techniques yet equally effective in its way. Your wounds heal unnaturally fast, she noted during one examination, her accent lending musical quality to her words. The cut on your arm disappeared within hours. A family trait, Naruto replied with technical honesty. Enhanced by my unique energy. Talisa's dark eyes studied him with clinical interest that gradually shifted to something more personal. I've treated men from across the known world, some are islanders, Bravosi, Dornishmen, but never encountered healing like yours. Could I show you something? Naruto asked impulsively. When she nodded, he formed a small Rasengan in his palm, keeping it pure chakra rather than flame through careful concentration. The blue-white sphere spun gently, casting ethereal light across her fascinated features. This is healing energy from my world. We use it to close wounds, mend bones, even treat disease. May I? She asked, reaching hesitantly toward the sphere. Naruto adjusted the technique, extending tendrils of chakra that danced around her fingers without burning. Talisa gasped as the energy traced her skin, leaving pleasant warmth in its wake. It feels alive, she whispered. It is, in a way, Naruto confirmed. Life force given purpose and direction. Their eyes met over the glowing technique, a moment of connection transcending worlds and backgrounds. Naruto released the jutsu slowly, energy dissipating between them. Your homeland must be remarkable, Talisa said finally. It is. Though this world has wonders of its own. Their conversations continued over subsequent days, her practical medical knowledge complementing his more esoteric understanding of healing. Unlike many in Winterfell, she showed no fear of his abilities, only curiosity and growing admiration. As winter deepened its hold on the north, Naruto's nightly dreams intensified. The silver-haired figure, Rieger, he now knew, appeared more frequently, sometimes accompanied by a young woman with violet eyes who commanded dragons with words Naruto somehow understood despite never learning High Valyrian. Daenerys, Kurama identified. Your blood calls to hers across the sea. She's facing her own challenges, Naruto observed after one particularly vivid dream. Leading people through harsh desert. Protecting dragon hatchlings. The scroll spoke of awakening what sleeps in stone. She's accomplished that much already. Which means my presence here connects to something more specific, Naruto concluded. Something yet to come. His opportunity to investigate came unexpectedly, when a raven arrived from White Harbor bearing news that would alter his path irrevocably. Dornish ships have been sighted in White Harbor, Robb announced during council. Flying peace banners and requesting audience. Dorne has remained neutral thus far, Caitlin noted. What changes now? The answer arrived days later with a delegation from Sunspear, representatives of House Martell, led by none other than Princess Arianne Martell herself. The Dornish princess entered Winterfell's great hall with confidence bordering on audacity, her exotic beauty drawing every eye. Unlike northern noblewomen with their modest attire, Arianne wore silks in vibrant orange and red despite the cold, her olive skin and black curls emphasizing features both sensual and imperious. 6 guards flanked her, their Sun and Spear insignia prominently displayed. The North honors Dorne's friendship, Robb greeted formally from the high seat of Winterfell. Though we confess surprise at your personal presence, Princess. Arianne's smile revealed perfect white teeth as her dark eyes surveyed the hall, lingering significantly on Naruto. Recent developments warranted direct communication rather than missives easily intercepted. Dorne has information vital to your cause, and to your guest of Targaryen lineage. A murmur rippled through the assembled lords. Naruto straightened, suddenly the focus of attention. We will speak privately, Robb decided, rising from his seat. In the Lord's Solar, with only key advisors present, Arianne revealed the true purpose of her journey. Our spies in King's Landing report the Lannisters have learned of a new Targaryen appearance in the north, she stated without preamble. They believe it a ploy of yours, Lord Stark, manufacturing a dragon lord to legitimize rebellion. How did this information reach them? Caitlin asked sharply. Arianne shrugged elegantly. Winterfell, for all its strengths, cannot prevent curious eyes from observing a man who commands fire without oil or brazier. Tales spread. Questions arise. And Dorne's interest? Robb inquired. House Martell has no love for Lannisters, Arianne replied, eyes hardening momentarily. My Aunt Elia and her children, Targaryen children, were butchered during their sack of King's Landing. We've awaited vengeance for 17 years. She turned her attention fully to Naruto, studying him with open curiosity. You are Rhaegar's son. From before his marriage to my aunt. So it seems, Naruto replied cautiously. Though I was raised in a different world, unaware of my connection to House Targaryen. Arianne circled him slowly, assessing. The coloring is wrong, Targaryens are silver-haired, purple-eyed. Yet there's something in the jawline, and those markings are curious indeed. My mother in that world, in my world, had red hair, Naruto explained. These marks relate to circumstances of my birth there. Half-truth, Kurama approved. Our interest is practical, Arianne continued, addressing the room while maintaining focus on Naruto. Dorne would ally with the North against Lannister tyranny, but requires assurance of purpose. A Targaryen restoration offers such purpose, particularly one backed by powers not seen since the Age of Magic. You propose an alliance through me? Naruto clarified. Despite my uncertain claim and foreign origins. Arianne's smile returned, sharper now. I propose we verify your claim first, through means available in Dorne that don't exist here. House Martell possesses artifacts from Rhaegar's time with Elia that respond only to dragonblood. Then we discuss alliance, and perhaps more. The implication hung in the air, her intent unmistakable. Princess, Caitlin interjected with diplomatic precision, such arrangements require considerable discussion. Of course, Arianne conceded gracefully. But time grows short. Lannister forces prepare to march north, while across the narrow sea, your aunt gathers strength. If you are truly Rhaegar's son, Naruto Uzumaki, the realm deserves to know before more blood is spilled in wars that might be resolved through restoration. That evening, alone in his chambers, Naruto considered the Dornish proposal with Kurama. She sees me as a political tool, he observed, watching snowfall through frost-edged windows. All royal bloodlines are political tools, the fox replied philosophically. But she's not wrong about verification. If your connection to this world comes through Targaryen blood, understanding its full nature may reveal how to return home. And the personal interest she barely disguised? Calculated, certainly. Yet perhaps not entirely feigned. You've grown into your power, Kit. That attracts attention, particularly from those who recognize its value. Naruto thought of Talisa's gentle fascination contrasted with Ariane's bold assessment. Two women, utterly different in background and approach, yet both seeing something in him worth exploring. I need to reach Daenerys eventually, he concluded. Dorne places me closer to ships that could cross the narrow sea. And provides verification of your bloodline that might prove crucial when you meet her. Then my path is clear, Naruto said, decision crystallizing. I'll travel to Dorne with Princess Ariane, verify my heritage, then seek passage to find my aunt. The following morning, he presented his decision to Rob in private. You've become a trusted friend, the young lord said after hearing Naruto's reasoning. Your counsel has proven valuable, your abilities even more so. The North would benefit from your continued presence. I've learned much here, Naruto acknowledged. About this world, about portions of my heritage I never knew existed. But answers I need lie elsewhere, and perhaps aid I can bring to your cause as well. Rob nodded reluctantly. We cannot spare a large escort, but I'll assign trusted men to accompany you. I'll return, Naruto promised. Whether to bring Targaryen support for the North or simply as the friend I've become. Preparations moved swiftly. Within days, arrangements were finalized for Naruto to depart with the Dornish delegation. Arya protested vehemently until he promised to continue her training upon his return. You'd better, she threatened, fierce despite the tears she fought to hide. Or I'll hunt you across the world myself. Bran extracted similar promises, while Caitlin provided practical guidance about southern politics and customs. Maester Luwin contributed what scholarly knowledge he possessed about Targaryen history and Dornish culture. The morning of departure arrived with clear skies but bitter cold. The Stark family assembled in the courtyard to bid farewell as horses were prepared and final supplies loaded. Talisa approached as Naruto adjusted his mount's saddle, her expression troubled. The journey to Dorne is dangerous, especially in winter. You should take healing supplies. She presented a small leather case containing herbs, bandages, and remedies. Their fingers brushed during the exchange, lingering longer than necessary. I've labeled everything clearly, she continued, voice softer. Though with your abilities, perhaps you won't need them. Thank you, Naruto said sincerely. Your knowledge has been invaluable. Will you return to Winterfell? The question carried weight beyond simple curiosity. I hope to, he answered truthfully. Though much depends on what I discover in Dorne, and beyond the narrow sea. Talisa nodded, understanding the unspoken implications. Then I hope our paths cross again, Naruto of two worlds. She rose on tiptoes to place a gentle kiss on his cheek before stepping back, dignity intact despite the gesture's intimacy. Across the courtyard, Ariane observed the exchange with calculating eyes, her expression revealing nothing as she mounted her own richly caparisoned steed. Final farewells complete, the party departed through Winterfell's south gate. Naruto turned in his saddle for a last glimpse of the ancient fortress that had provided first sanctuary in this strange world. Your journey truly begins now, Kurama observed. No longer simply reacting to circumstances, but actively seeking your place between worlds. Dragon blood and fox spirit, Naruto murmured, facing forward as Winterfell disappeared behind snow-laden pines. Let's discover what that combination truly means. Beyond the Wolfswood, beyond the north itself, destiny awaited, in sun-scorched Dorne, across the narrow sea, and perhaps in the connection between a lost prince and the last Targaryen. Chapter 2, Fire's Shadow. In the Game of Thrones, winter bared its teeth across the Riverlands. 3 weeks into their journey south, the Dornish party and their northern companions had traded Winterfell's familiar cold for the bitter chill of open plains and riverside camps. Snow fell less frequently here but came instead as freezing rain that penetrated cloaks and leathers with methodical persistence. Around their evening fire, men huddled in miserable silence while servants struggled to erect tents against gusting winds. Only Naruto seemed unbothered, standing slightly apart with face tilted skyward, eyes closed as droplets struck his whiskered cheeks. "You find pleasure in discomfort, Lord Uzumaki?" Princess Ariane approached, her Dornish garments now supplemented by thick northern furs that somehow enhanced rather than diminished her exotic beauty. "Just Naruto," he corrected automatically. "And I'm not uncomfortable. I'm listening." She raised a perfectly arched eyebrow. "To rain. To everything beneath it." His eyes opened, meeting hers with unexpected intensity. "Your men checking perimeter. 3 deer moving through brush northeast. Someone sharpening a blade by the supply wagon." Ariane studied him with renewed interest. "Another shinobi technique? Basic situational awareness. Essential when enemies might approach from any direction." He glanced toward the darkened road they'd traveled. "Like those 7 riders who've been shadowing us since midday." Her hand moved reflexively to the slender dagger concealed in her sleeve. "You're certain?" Instead of answering, Naruto formed a familiar hand seal. "Kage Bunshin no Jutsu." 3 shadow clones materialized amid brief flickers of flame, each an exact duplicate down to the water droplets on their cloaks. Without instruction, they disappeared into the rainy darkness. "They'll intercept without being seen," Naruto explained. "We'll know soon whether they're simply travelers or something more concerning." "A useful talent," Ariane murmured, watching the space where his duplicates had vanished. "Creating copies that think independently." "They're not just copies. They're me, same consciousness, same abilities, just distributed. When they dispel, their experiences return to me." As if summoned by his explanation, Naruto suddenly stiffened, eyes unfocusing briefly. When his attention returned to Ariane, his expression had hardened. "Lannister scouts. Carrying messages rather than seeking confrontation, but they've recognized your Martell banners." Ariane cursed softly in Dornish. "Word of our movement will reach King's Landing within days." "They won't be delivering any messages," Naruto assured her. "My clones have delayed them." Non-lethally, he added, seeing her questioning look. "Mercy is admirable but sometimes impractical in war," she responded, unconsciously echoing sentiments Naruto had heard throughout his life. "I've learned that practical and merciful aren't always mutually exclusive." Besides, his lips quirked into a half-smile, confused enemies sometimes provide better intelligence than dead ones. Before she could respond, a disturbance near the camp's edge drew their attention. One of Naruto's clones had returned, forcibly escorting a hooded figure whose struggles ceased abruptly upon seeing the original. "Found this one watching from that copse," the clone reported, gesturing toward a distant stand of trees. "Not with the Lannister party. Different purpose entirely." Naruto approached as the clone removed their captive's hood, revealing a startlingly familiar face framed by windblown brown hair. "Arya?" he exclaimed, genuinely shocked. "What in the, how did you?" "You're not very observant for a shinobi," the girl retorted, somehow maintaining dignity despite her undignified capture. "I've been following since Winterfell." The clone released her arms, looking almost apologetic before dispersing in a puff of smoke. Ariane watched the exchange with undisguised fascination. "A stark child, this far from Winterfell's protection?" she questioned, voice carefully neutral. "Most interesting." Naruto's expression cycled rapidly through surprise, anger, and resignation. "We need to get her inside a tent before she freezes. Then we'll discuss her immediate return north with an escort." "I'm not going back," Arya declared, chin lifting in defiance. "Robb would never let me travel south, but my sister Sansa is still held captive in King's Landing. While you go gallivanting to Dorne, I'm going to rescue her." alone? With winter deepening and armies between you and the capital? Naruto challenged. I had a plan, she insisted. Before your stupid clone caught me. Ariane's surprised laughter drew sharp looks from both. Forgive me, she said, composing herself. But I begin to understand why you formed bonds with the Starks so quickly, Naruto. You share certain qualities. Reckless stubbornness isn't something to encourage, Naruto muttered, though his severe expression softened when he looked at Arya's determined face. Come on. Let's get warm first, then figure out what to do with you. Inside Ariane's pavilion, the largest and most comfortable in their camp, servants had prepared braziers that pushed back the evening chill. Maps lay scattered across a portable writing desk, marked with potential routes south. Once Arya had been provided dry clothing and hot spiced wine diluted with water, Naruto fixed her with his most serious gaze. Explain, he commanded simply. The young Stark matched his intensity. You were teaching me to be stronger, then suddenly decided to leave. But your techniques work, I've been practicing. I can move silently now, hide effectively. I survived 3 weeks following your party without detection. Until tonight, Naruto pointed out. Only because you created those copy things, she countered. None of your regular guards spotted me. Ariane observed their exchange with growing amusement. The child has spirit, she commented. And clearly some skill, despite her age. I'm not a child, Arya snapped. I've seen men die. I've killed. The simple declaration, delivered without bravado, silenced the tent. Naruto recognized the shadow behind her eyes, the same one he'd seen in young shinobi after their first bloody missions. Sansa is my sister, she continued more quietly. The Lannisters have her. They killed my father. They're hurting her, I know it. I can't just stay safe in Winterfell while she suffers. Naruto exchanged glances with Ariane, whose expression had grown thoughtful. Our route doesn't take us to King's Landing, he said carefully. But Dorne opposes the Lannisters, Arya countered, revealing how much she'd overheard. Princess Martell wants alliance against them. That means eventually fighting them, which means helping me rescue Sansa serves your interests too. Ariane's eyebrows rose appreciatively. Sharp mind behind that willful exterior. She's still returning to Winterfell, Naruto stated firmly. Actually, Ariane interjected, the girl raises valid points. Having a Stark hostage provides the Lannisters significant leverage. Recovering her would indeed serve multiple interests, including cementing Dorne's potential alliance with the North. You can't seriously suggest bringing a child, I suggest nothing yet, Ariane interrupted smoothly. Merely acknowledging strategic realities. Decisions can wait until morning, when tempers have cooled and rain has passed. Despite Naruto's objections, Arya remained with their party as dawn broke clear and cold across the riverlands. Pragmatic considerations prevailed, sending her north with an escort would divide their already limited forces, while the alternative of Arya traveling alone remained unacceptable. She stays with us to Dorne, Ariane declared as they broke camp. Where she'll remain under protection while we assess opportunities regarding her sister. That's my final word on the matter. Naruto recognized the political calculation behind the princess's decision. A Stark child under Martell protection created additional ties between houses, potential leverage in complex alliance negotiations. I'll be responsible for her, he informed Ariane privately as they mounted their horses. Her safety above all other concerns. Admirable devotion, she replied with a knowing smile. Though I suspect our young wolf will require less protection than management. Indeed, Arya proved herself a surprisingly capable traveler as their journey continued southward. Her horsemanship matched any in their company, and her woodcraft sometimes surpassed their scouts. Most evenings found her badgering Naruto to continue her training, requests he reluctantly obliged once camp duties were complete. Your stance is still too rigid, he critiqued during one such session in a forest clearing. Flexibility creates opportunities. Like this. He demonstrated a flowing movement that carried him seamlessly around an imaginary opponent's guard. Arya attempted to mimic the technique, her natural agility serving her well despite imperfect execution. In bravos, water dancers practice footwork for years before ever lifting a blade, she commented, repeating the movement with improved precision. Solid foundations prevent bad habits, Naruto agreed. But sometimes circumstances don't allow for perfect training sequences. Like when you're in a different world with different rules? Her perceptive question caught him off guard. Something like that. Do you miss it? You're home. Naruto paused, considering how to answer. Every day, he admitted finally. I have precious people there, friends who are like family. Responsibilities I've abandoned without choice. But you found family here too, she pointed out. Your Targaryen blood. Your aunt across the sea. Blood doesn't automatically make family, he replied, thinking of his complicated relationship with Sasuke. Bonds form through shared experiences, mutual trust, protecting each other. Like you protected me in the Wolfswood? Arya suggested. Naruto smiled. Like that. Though I think you'd have managed those brigands eventually. Her answering grin revealed rare childish delight beneath her hardened exterior. I'd have stuck them with the pointy end. Such moments of connection punctuated increasingly difficult travel as they approached the mountains of the moon. Their pace slowed to accommodate treacherous passes where horses proceeded single file along narrow switchbacks. Snow gave way to freezing rain, then back to snow as elevation changed, all while supplies dwindled and tempers frayed. Naruto often scouted ahead with shadow clones, mapping safer routes and identifying potential threats. During one such reconnaissance, his clone discovered something unexpected, a solitary figure hunting in a high valley, moving with unmistakable skill despite the harsh conditions. Red hair blazed like fire against pristine snow as the woman, for woman it was, tracked deer prints with practiced ease. Her furs and leathers blended with surrounding forest except for that distinctive hair, bound simply with a leather thong. A bow rode her back while a short spear served as walking staff. The clone observed from concealment until a sudden shift in wind direction carried his scent to the hunter. Her reaction proved her capabilities. In one fluid motion, she knocked an arrow and loosed it precisely toward his position, following immediately with two more in rapid succession. Only shinobi reflexes saved the clone from dispelling as arrows thudded into the tree trunk where his head had been moments before. I know you're there, the woman called in a distinctive accent. Show yourself or the next one goes through your eye. Weighing options quickly, the clone emerged with empty hands raised. No quarrel with you, he called. Just passing through. The woman kept her bow drawn, studying his unusual appearance with narrowed eyes. Those marks on your face. You're one of them southern skin changers. I don't know that term, the clone replied honestly. Man who can wear animal skins. Enter beasts' minds. Her bowstring remained taut. Crow told stories of one beyond the wall. I'm not from beyond any wall, he answered, confused by the reference. My party travels to Dorne. I scout ahead for safer passages. Suspicion remained evident in her posture, but curiosity began overtaking hostility. What manner of man are you then, with marks like a shadow cat? It's complicated. My name is Naruto Uzumaki. Foreign name, she observed. Strange look. Yet you move like a free folk hunter. Finally, she lowered her bow slightly. I am Ygritte, of the free folk. What Southron lordling sends scouts through these heights in winter? The clone risked a step forward. Princess Ariane Martell of Dorne. Recognition flickered across her features. Dorne. The hot lands where spears are carried by women as well as men. She seemed to find this particular detail significant. Why does she travel in winter? Political matters, the clone answered vaguely, not wanting to reveal Naruto's Targaryen connections to a stranger. Ygritte snorted derisively. Always politics with you kneelers. While true threats grow beyond the wall, you sovereigns squabble over metal chairs and stone castles. Before the clone could respond, distant howls echoed through the valley, not wolves, but men mimicking their calls. Ygritte's head snapped toward the sound, tension returning to her posture. Shadowcats hunt these slopes, she said urgently. And worse things. Your princess should move her party through quickly. With that warning, she disappeared into the underbrush with startling speed, leaving the clone to return its intelligence to the original Naruto. Free folk. Ariane questioned when Naruto related the encounter. Wildlings, the northerners call them. Raiders from beyond the wall who occasionally venture into the mountains. Strange to find one this far south. She seemed to be alone, Naruto noted. And mentioned true threats beyond the wall. Old superstitions, one of their northern escorts dismissed. Tales of white walkers and ice spiders to frighten children. Yet something in the wildling woman's warning had struck Naruto as genuine, concern rather than manipulation. That night, he created additional clones to maintain vigilance while the main party rested. Their precaution proved warranted when pre-dawn stillness shattered under bestial howls, too deep for wolves, too articulated for wildcats. Naruto jolted awake seconds before one of his clones dispelled, transferring memories of massive shapes moving through mountain fog. Wake everyone, he ordered Arya, who had already reached for Needle. Something's coming. Ariane emerged from her tent as guards scrambled to defensive positions. What manner of attack? Unclear, Naruto admitted, scanning the misty perimeter. But large predators, possibly multiple. The mist thickened unnaturally, reducing visibility to mere meters despite the rising sun. From within its concealing embrace came heavy footfalls and guttural breathing. Guards nervously knocked arrows and leveled spears toward sounds they couldn't precisely locate. Hold positions, Naruto commanded, closing his eyes to better sense approaching threats. Don't waste arrows shooting blindly. The first attack came not from the ground but from above, a massive shape leaping from an overhanging rock onto the sentry nearest Ariane's tent. The man's scream cut short as powerful jaws closed around his throat. Shadow Cat, someone shouted as the creature became visible, a predator resembling a mountain lion but twice the size, with distinctive striped markings across its midnight fur. More shapes emerged through mist, 3, 4, then 5 shadow cats stalking the camp's perimeter with coordinated precision unlike natural hunting behavior. They're being controlled, Naruto realized aloud, forming hand seals. Katan, Gokakyu no Jutsu. The great fireball technique manifested with greater intensity than he'd intended, superheated flames clearing mist and expanding circles as they rocketed toward the nearest shadow cat. The beast yowled horribly as fire engulfed it, revealing a horrific detail, a human hand protruding from its chest cavity, fingers moving independently as if pulling internal strings. Skin changers, one of their northern escorts gasped. Gods preserve us. Naruto created shadow clones that engaged the remaining predators while he focused on locating the controllers. Ariane, get everyone to the clearing 50 meters south. These animals are puppets, we need to find their masters. As the princess efficiently organized their retreat, Naruto entered Sage Mode, a technique functioning differently in this realm. Instead of nature chakra producing physical changes, his eyes glowed with inner fire while flame-like patterns spread across his skin. Enhanced senses immediately detected 3 human presences hiding among distant rocks, minds partially subsumed into their animal vessels while bodies remained vulnerable. Without hesitation, Naruto launched himself toward the nearest controller, covering impossible distance in a single leap. The skin changer, a gaunt man with matted hair and ritual scars across his face, barely registered Naruto's approach before a kunai embedded itself in the rock inches from his head. Release the animals, Naruto demanded, voice carrying otherworldly resonance in Sage Mode. Now. Instead of complying, the man's eyes rolled back as he transferred more consciousness into his controlled beast. The corresponding shadow cat redoubled its savagery, nearly breaking through the defensive line Naruto's clones had established. Wrong choice, Naruto muttered. With precise chakra control, he placed 2 fingers against the skin changer's forehead. A technique adapted from Yamanaka clan practices disrupted the man's consciousness, severing connections to his animal vessel without killing either. The effect rippled through their attackers. One shadow cat collapsed mid-leap while others suddenly broke off, confusion replacing coordinated aggression as natural instincts reasserted control. By the time Naruto located and neutralized the remaining skin changers, dawn had fully broken. The shadow cats retreated into mountain forests, leaving 4 guards dead and several others wounded. Among the injured was one of the Martel soldiers, a young man named Dazil Sand whose leg had been badly mauled. The wound festers unnaturally, Ariane observed as their healer examined the injury. As if poisoned. Naruto knelt beside the man, examining the wound with sage-enhanced perception. Not poison. Something else. The creature's claws carried wrongness. Can you help him? Arya asked, hovering nearby with surprising concern for a Dornish stranger. Naruto nodded slowly. I think so. But I need space and concentration. When others had withdrawn to a respectful distance, he placed both hands over the wound. Unlike traditional medical ninjutsu, his healing chakra manifested as gentle golden flames that spread across the injured leg. Dazil tensed initially but soon relaxed as pain visibly diminished. I've never seen such methods, Ariane commented from nearby, watching intently. Even Dornish healing traditions involve herbs and poultices, not fire that doesn't burn. In my world, medical ninja use chakra to accelerate natural healing, Naruto explained as he worked. Here, it manifests differently, but the principle remains similar. The process continued nearly an hour, sweat beading Naruto's brow as he meticulously purged corruption from the wound while stimulating tissue regeneration. When he finally sat back, exhausted, Dazil's leg showed remarkable improvement, angry black veins had receded, swelling reduced significantly. He'll need conventional treatment to complete healing, Naruto advised the Dornish healer. But the worst danger has passed. Ariane helped him stand, supporting his weight when fatigue made him momentarily unsteady. You expend significant energy for a man not sworn to Dorn, she observed quietly. I don't need oaths to help someone suffering, he replied simply. Something in his straightforward response seemed to affect her deeply. For a brief moment, calculation vanished from her expression, replaced by genuine admiration. Many men speak of honor, she said softly. Few demonstrate it so naturally. Their gazes held until Arya's deliberate cough interrupted the moment. The red-haired wildling is back, the girl announced, jerking her thumb toward the camp's edge. Indeed, Ygritte stood observing their camp from atop a nearby boulder, bow slung casually across her shoulders. When she realized she'd been noticed, she approached without hesitation, stride confident despite entering a potentially hostile situation. You survived, she noted, addressing Naruto directly. Most don't, when skin changers hunt with shadow cats. You knew they were pursuing us? Ariane questioned sharply. Why I warned your scout, Ygritte confirmed. Though warning rarely helps against such enemies. And yet you didn't join us to help fight them off, Arya pointed out suspiciously. The wildling woman's gaze shifted to the young Stark, assessing her with newfound interest. One spear against many cats makes poor odds, girl. I know when to fight and when to watch. Why return now? Naruto asked, genuinely curious. Saw your fire magic, Ygritte answered bluntly. Never witnessed its like before. Made me curious what manner of man wields flames that dance to his command. Her forthright manner reminded Naruto powerfully of certain shinobi from his world, practical, direct, unburdened by courtly pretense. He found it refreshingly familiar amid Westeros's layers of political calculation. We could use a guide familiar with these mountains, he suggested, glancing toward Ariane for approval. Our maps show multiple passes ahead, but not which remain navigable in winter. The princess studied their unexpected visitor with measured consideration. What payment would you require? Safety beyond the mountain, Ygritte answered immediately. And truth about the fire wielder. She gestured toward Naruto. Stories should be exchanged fairly. Fair terms, Ariane agreed after brief contemplation. Though some stories remain private until we reach Dornish lands. As they should, Ygritte acknowledged. Trust isn't given before it's earned. With their unusual new guide, the party made remarkable progress through mountain passes that would have otherwise proven treacherous or impassable. Ygritte's knowledge of hidden routes and natural shelters saved precious days while her hunting skills supplemented dwindling provisions. During evenings around campfires, she shared limited details about her people, the free folk beyond the wall, their struggles against harsh conditions and ancient threats that southern kingdoms dismissed as superstition. In return, she absorbed information about their world with surprising discernment, asking penetrating questions that revealed keen intelligence beneath her rough exterior. Her interactions with Arya proved particularly noteworthy, initial wariness evolving into something resembling mutual respect as they discovered shared practical perspectives. The wildling woman began supplementing Naruto's training sessions with practical wilderness skills, teaching Arya techniques for moving silently through snow and reading animal tracks. She has wolf blood, Ygritte remarked to Naruto during one such lesson. Strong instincts beneath Southron trappings. Wolf blood. Northern saying, she explained. Some Starks born wilder than others. Closer to their sigil's nature. Naruto watched as Arya successfully identified days-old fox prints partially obscured by snowfall. She adapts quickly to new knowledge. As do you, Ygritte observed, studying him with characteristic directness. Though your knowledge seems strangest of all. Meaning? You fight like no warrior I've seen, not wildling, not crow, not Southron knight. You heal with fire that doesn't burn. You create copies of yourself from nothing. Her eyes narrowed slightly. Yet you understand so little about this land. As if you learned warfare elsewhere entirely. Naruto considered how much to reveal. I came from somewhere very different, he acknowledged finally. A place where such abilities are more common. Beyond the Sunset Sea, she guessed. Something like that. Ygritte seemed satisfied with his partial honesty. The free folk believe the world holds more wonders than Maesters record in their books. Beyond ice, beyond fire, other realms exist, touched by different gods or magics. You believe that? I've seen wargs control beasts with their minds, she replied pragmatically. I've heard horns that crack ancient ice. I've watched you summon fire with hand movements. Who am I to claim what cannot exist? Her perspective, practical acceptance of observed reality without needless philosophizing, resonated with Naruto's own approach to life's mysteries. In that moment, despite their vastly different backgrounds, he recognized a kindred spirit. As they descended from the mountains into more temperate lowlands, Ygritte's demeanor subtly shifted, her confidence in familiar terrain giving way to wary alertness in foreign territory. Never traveled this far south, she admitted one evening, eyes constantly scanning unfamiliar stars. Stories say Dorne burns hotter than wildfire. Parts of it, Ariane confirmed from nearby. The deep desert especially. But coastal regions and mountain valleys remain pleasant even in summer. Why leave your people to journey so far? Naruto asked, curious about her solitary presence so distant from the wall. Something guarded entered Ygritte's expression. Some journeys become necessary when staying means death. Before he could inquire further, commotion erupted from their scouts, riders approaching rapidly from the southeast. Within minutes, a considerable force had surrounded their camp, at least 30 mounted soldiers bearing the golden rose sigil of House Tyrell. Their leader, a knight of imposing stature, removed his helmet to reveal a handsome face framed by brown curls. Princess Ariane, he called formally. Ser Loras Tyrell extends greetings on behalf of House Tyrell and requests your company at Highgarden. Requests? Ariane replied with diplomatic precision. Or commands, Ser Loras. Invites with strong recommendation, he clarified, a hint of wry humor tempering the implicit threat of his superior forces. These are troubled times for travelers, especially those of significant political importance. Naruto positioned himself subtly between Ariane and the Tyrell forces, a movement not lost on Ser Loras, whose eyes narrowed as he assessed the unusual foreigner. And this would be the rumored Targaryen bastard from beyond the narrow sea? The knight inquired with calculated nonchalance. Stories travel faster than horses in wartime, princess. Some stories contain more imagination than truth, Ariane replied smoothly. Though House Martell appreciates House Tyrell's concern for our safe passage. Political currents swirled beneath their carefully measured exchange, alliances being tested, information probed, intentions masked behind courtesy. Naruto remained silent, allowing Ariane's diplomatic expertise to navigate these unfamiliar waters while he assessed potential escape routes should conversation turn to confrontation. My grandmother would be most disappointed to learn you passed through our lands without extending courtesy, Loras continued. Particularly given mutual interests against certain, golden lions. The oblique reference to Lannister enemies registered clearly. Ariane's posture relaxed marginally as she recognized the underlying message. Not capture but potential alliance. A brief detour to exchange courtesies with the Queen of Thorns would indeed be proper, she acknowledged. Provided adequate accommodations extend to all my party. Loras inclined his head. Highgarden's hospitality remains unmatched in the Seven Kingdoms. Arya appeared beside Naruto, hand resting casually on Needle's hilt. Can we trust them? She whispered. We're about to find out, he murmured back. Highgarden embodied its name with impressive literalness. Unlike Winterfell's stark pragmatism or the Red Keep's imposing dominance, the Tyrell seat blended military fortification with aesthetic beauty so seamlessly they became inseparable. 3 concentric walls surrounded the castle proper, each incorporating elaborate gardens, briar labyrinths, and ornamental pools that would hinder attackers while delighting residents. Even in winter, countless braziers and ingenious glass gardens maintained blooming flowers throughout the castle grounds. Servants wore livery accented with embroidered roses, while the sweet scent of summer wines and exotic perfumes permeated marble hallways. Excessive, Ygritte muttered as they passed through another courtyard where topiary direwolves faced stone lions across a chessboard pattern of white and green tile. How many could survive winter on resources wasted here? Welcome to Southern politics, Arya whispered back. Where appearances matter more than practicalities. Not entirely fair, Naruto countered quietly. Strategic displays of wealth demonstrate power without bloodshed. Similar practices existed in my world between competing daimyo. Their philosophical discussion ended as they entered Highgarden's great hall, where the formidable Olenna Tyrell awaited. Despite her advanced age and diminutive stature, the Queen of Thorns dominated the ornate chamber through sheer force of personality. Seated rather than standing to receive guests, she dispensed with formal protocols with a dismissive wave. Enough ceremony, she declared before introductions were complete. We've more important matters than rehearsing family titles everyone already knows. Princess Ariane, you've grown lovelier since we last met. Still unmarried, I note. Wise, perhaps, given current uncertainties. Ariane matched the older woman's directness. Lady Olenna. Still commanding Highgarden's true power while letting men believe they rule. Some strategies never require revision. The old woman's laughter held genuine amusement. Indeed not. Her sharp gaze shifted to Naruto. And this is your mysterious companion. Step closer, young man. My eyes aren't what they once were, though they still see more than most with perfect vision. Naruto approached with respectful confidence, meeting her evaluating stare without deference or challenge. Lady Olenna. I'm Naruto Uzumaki. Unusual name. Unusual appearance. She studied his whiskered cheeks and bright blue eyes. Not typical Targaryen features, yet rumor insists you're Rhaegar's lost son. Rumors often contain elements of truth wrapped in convenient fabrications, he replied diplomatically. Well said, though ultimately evasive. Her thin lips curved slightly. We'll speak more privately later. For now, you must be weary from travel. Chambers have been prepared. My grandson Loras will show you to them once you've refreshed yourselves. The dismissal, though politely framed, brooked no argument. As servants led them from the hall, Naruto noticed a young woman observing from a side gallery, perhaps Arian's age, with honey-brown hair and intelligent eyes that assessed their party with particular attention to himself. Lady Marjorie Tyrell, Arian murmured, following his gaze. Loras's sister and House Tyrell's most valuable game piece. Recently widowed when her husband Renly Baratheon met with unfortunate circumstances. Another player in your Game of Thrones, Naruto surmised. One of its most skilled, Arian confirmed. Remember that her gentle appearance masks ambitions that rival her grandmother's. Their assigned quarters proved luxurious beyond necessity, Naruto's chambers larger than his entire apartment in Konoha, appointed with hand-carved furniture, Myrish carpets, and freshly cut flowers despite winter's limitations. A copper bathtub had been prepared with steaming water scented with unfamiliar herbs. Impressive display of resources, Kurama noted, breaking a silence he'd maintained throughout their mountain passage. Though perhaps intended to overwhelm provincial visitors with sophisticated excess. You've been quiet lately, Naruto observed, sinking gratefully into the bath. Observing this realm's peculiarities. Your Targaryen connection grows more significant as we travel south. Have you noticed how differently your chakra manifests since leaving the north? Naruto considered the fox's observation. Indeed, his techniques had evolved subtly, fire aspects intensifying while healing abilities developed unexpected nuance. Even his physical stamina seemed enhanced in these warmer climates. Dragon blood responding to its ancestral regions, he hypothesized. Perhaps. Or perhaps proximity to others with similar heritage awakens dormant aspects. You think there are Targaryens here at Highgarden? Not necessarily. But dragon blood has scattered across generations. Diluted lines may exist in unexpected places. Their conversation paused as a servant announced Lady Marjorie's request for Naruto to join her in the winter garden once he'd rested. The invitation carried political implications he couldn't fully interpret without understanding Tyrell ambitions. Careful with this one, Kurama cautioned. She moves with purpose behind courtesy. The winter garden occupied Highgarden's southeastern tower, a multi-level greenhouse where ingenious systems of mirrors and heated water pipes maintained lush growth despite the season. Marjorie awaited on the uppermost level, where exotic blue winter roses bloomed alongside fruit trees that should have been dormant. She rose gracefully as he entered, offering a smile that conveyed both warmth and careful assessment. Lord Uzumaki. Thank you for indulging my curiosity. Just Naruto, please, he corrected gently. I hold no lordship here. Perhaps not officially, she acknowledged, gesturing for him to join her on a stone bench surrounded by fragrant herbs. Though men whisper of heritage that might entitle you to more than mere lordship. Direct, then. Naruto appreciated her approach more than veiled insinuations. People enjoy speculating about mysteries. I've learned that's universal across cultures. Indeed. Her laugh held genuine amusement. Though some mysteries carry greater consequence than others. A potential Targaryen heir appears precisely when the realm fractures under contested succession. Quite remarkable timing. I didn't choose the moment of my arrival, he replied honestly. Nor do I seek any throne. Marjorie studied him with undisguised interest. A refreshing perspective, if genuine. Most men in your rumored position would immediately assert their claim. I have responsibilities elsewhere that remain my priority, Naruto explained. Understanding my connection to this world matters personally, not politically. Yet personal and political rarely separate cleanly, she observed. Particularly for those with special abilities. She gestured subtly toward a withered plant nearly concealed among healthier specimens. The unspoken request registered clearly, she'd orchestrated this setting to test his rumored powers. Without comment, Naruto approached the dying plant. Placing his hand near its wilted stem, he channeled a gentle current of chakra, not the golden flames of his combat techniques, but a softer green energy that suffused the plant's tissues. Within moments, brown leaves regained color, stems straightened, and fresh growth emerged from seemingly dead branches. Marjorie's carefully maintained composure faltered momentarily, genuine wonder replacing political calculation. "Remarkable," she whispered, touching the rejuvenated leaves with gentle fingers. "The maesters claim such abilities vanished with the last dragons." "Different worlds maintain different rules about what's possible," Naruto replied, watching her reaction carefully. "You speak of other worlds as if you've seen them," she noted perceptively. "Haven't you? Each kingdom operates under different principles, different values, different possibilities. The North differs from Dorne, which differs from the Reach. Each its own world in meaningful ways." She smiled appreciatively at his philosophical deflection. "Well reasoned. Though I suspect you mean something more literal than metaphorical." Their conversation shifted to less politically charged topics: Highgarden's famous tournaments, agricultural techniques that produced abundance even in winter, cultural differences between regions. Throughout, Naruto recognized Marjorie's exceptional intelligence beneath her carefully cultivated charm. "You would have made an exceptional diplomat in my homeland," he observed as their meeting concluded. "Perhaps in your homeland, straightforward diplomacy proves effective," she replied with subtle emphasis on the possessive. "Here, more indirect approaches often yield better results. Because people expect deception. Because truth spoken plainly often falls on defensive ears," she corrected. "Sometimes gentle misdirection creates pathways for important truths to find reception." The insight reminded Naruto unexpectedly of Shikamaru's strategic thinking, pragmatic without being cynical, recognizing human nature without contempt. He found himself genuinely appreciating Marjorie's perspective despite its fundamental differences from his own straightforward approach. "I hope we'll speak again before you continue to Dorne," she said as they parted, her hand resting briefly on his arm. Few conversations prove genuinely stimulating during wartime. "I'd welcome that," he replied sincerely. Upon returning to his chambers, Naruto found Arya pacing restlessly, needle strapped conspicuously to her hip despite the peaceful surroundings. "We're being watched," she announced without preamble. "Servants report our movements to the old woman. Guards monitor which chambers we visit. Even the Dornish princess is under observation." "That's called hospitality in most of Westeros," Ygritte remarked sardonically from where she sat. Cross-legged by the window, sharpening a small knife with methodical precision. "It's called gathering intelligence," Naruto corrected them both. "Lady Olenna wants information before committing to any position regarding Ariane's mission, and my identity. They'll want proof before believing Targaryen claims," Arya noted. "What will you show them?" The question highlighted their precarious position. Without Winterfell's dragon egg or the hidden scroll, Naruto possessed limited evidence of his heritage beyond abilities that could theoretically derive from other sources. "The truth, as much as serves our purpose," he decided. "My connection to the Targaryens matters less than potential alliances against shared enemies." Later that evening, a formal dinner provided opportunity for careful political maneuvering beneath superficial pleasantries. Seated at the high table between Marjorie and Ariane, Naruto observed the complex interplay between houses with centuries of complicated history. When servers had withdrawn after the main course, Olenna dispensed with pretense entirely. "Now then. Let's discuss what actually matters. Princess Ariane seeks northern passage through our lands while showcasing a supposed Targaryen heir. Curious timing when Stannis Baratheon claims the throne from the north while Joffrey holds King's Landing. House Martell has made no declarations regarding succession," Ariane replied smoothly. "We merely escort a guest with historical connections to our house." "Pretty words that say nothing substantive," Olenna dismissed. "The boy either has Targaryen blood or doesn't. If he does, his claim precedes both Baratheon pretenders. If he doesn't, parading him through warring kingdoms serves no purpose unless you intend using him as figurehead for another agenda." Naruto intervened before Ariane could respond. "My heritage remains secondary to more immediate concerns. The Lannisters threaten both Dorne and the Reach with different approaches. Meanwhile, greater dangers gather that kingdoms ignore while fighting each other. What greater dangers? Marjorie inquired, genuine curiosity evident beneath political awareness. Beyond the Wall, Naruto stated simply. Ancient threats awaken that will make your succession disputes irrelevant if left unchecked. Olenna's skeptical expression spoke volumes. The North always claims monsters gather beyond their precious wall whenever they seek southern assistance. Wildlings raid, certainly, but, not just wildlings, Ygritte interrupted, earning sharp looks for her breach of protocol. White Walkers return after 8,000 years. The dead rise under their command. While you Southrons squabble over iron chairs, true winter approaches, the kind your ancestors feared in their marrow. Stunned silence followed her blunt declaration until Loras laughed dismissively. Children's tales to frighten misbehaving noble offspring. I witnessed things in the mountains that defy conventional explanation, Naruto countered quietly. Skin changers controlling shadowcats with unnatural precision. Wounds that festered with otherworldly corruption. My journey began in the north, where Stark bannermen report similar disturbances increasing beyond the wall. Even if such threats existed, Olenna said, skepticism evident, how would confirming your Targaryen heritage address them? Dragons have been extinct for generations. Not entirely, Arianne interjected smoothly. Reports from across the narrow sea suggest Daenerys Targaryen has hatched 3 living dragons. Small yet, but growing. This revelation clearly surprised the Tyrells, whose intelligence networks apparently hadn't confirmed these rumors. Marjorie exchanged meaningful glances with her grandmother before addressing Naruto directly. You claim kinship with this dragon queen. According to evidence discovered at Winterfell, she would be my aunt, Naruto acknowledged. Though we've never met. Fascinating, Olenna murmured, calculation evident behind her aged eyes. A potential Targaryen restoration with living dragons would significantly alter current power balances. Which explains Dorne's sudden interest in northern alliances, Loras observed pointedly. House Martell's motivations remain our own, Arianne stated with dignified firmness. Though shared enemies often create natural alliances. The political discussion continued through dessert and subsequent wine, careful positioning, veiled implications, and strategic information sharing that would have impressed even Konoha's council elders. Throughout, Naruto contributed minimally, allowing Arianne's diplomatic expertise to navigate these treacherous waters while he observed Tyrell dynamics. As the evening concluded, Olenna requested private audience with Naruto alone, an unprecedented honor that doubled as potential danger. Arianne's subtle warning glance communicated clear caution as servants escorted him to the Queen of Thorns' private solar. Unlike the opulent public spaces of Highgarden, Olenna's personal chambers reflected practical functionality, writing desk positioned for optimal light, bookshelves containing ledgers rather than ornamental volumes, maps marked with agricultural notations rather than military positions. Sit, she commanded without preamble once servants had withdrawn. And spare me diplomatic niceties. At my age, time becomes precious currency best not wasted on pretense. Naruto complied, matching her directness. What do you want to know, Lady Olenna? Everything relevant, she replied instantly. But I'll settle for honesty about 3 matters, your true origins, your actual abilities, and your intentions regarding the Iron Throne. Careful balance required, Kurama cautioned. Complete honesty risks dismissal as madness, complete fabrication will be detected by her considerable experience. My origins span 2 worlds, Naruto began, deciding significant truth served better than comfortable lies. Born of Targaryen blood but raised in a realm where different rules of nature apply. My abilities derive from that world's techniques combined with whatever heritage flows through my veins here. He demonstrated by creating a small Rasengan in his palm, pure chakra rather than the fire manifestation, requiring considerable concentration in this realm. As for thrones, he continued while Olenna observed the swirling energy with undisguised fascination, my ambition has never involved ruling others. In my homeland, I sought acknowledgement and the ability to protect important people. Nothing changes that fundamental desire here. Yet you travel with Martell escorts toward a potential meeting with another Targaryen, she noted shrewdly. Actions speak louder than claimed intentions. Family connections matter to me, Naruto acknowledged. Having grown up without parents, discovering blood relations carries personal significance independent of politics. Olenna studied him with penetrating intensity that belied her years. You speak with sincerity rarely encountered in these halls. Either you're remarkably skilled at deception or unusually honest for someone with your potential power. I've found honesty typically creates fewer complications long-term, Naruto replied with a slight smile. Even when temporarily inconvenient. A philosophy most nobles would find hopelessly naive, she observed, though without mockery. Yet occasionally effective precisely because of its unexpectedness. She rose, moving to a cabinet from which she retrieved a small wooden box inlaid with mother-of-pearl. House Tyrell possesses few Targaryen artifacts, our relationship with that dynasty having occasionally proven complicated. However, this may interest you. Inside lay a simple metal bracelet crafted from what appeared to be Valyrian steel, engraved with dragon motifs and strange symbols resembling those on the scroll found at Winterfell. A gift to Highgarden generations ago, Olenna explained. Said to react in the presence of true dragon blood. Mostly ornamental since the dynasty fell, but perhaps still functional. Naruto accepted the bracelet cautiously. The moment his fingers touched Valyrian steel, the engravings illuminated with subtle reddish light, while the metal itself warmed noticeably against his skin. Olenna's eyes widened slightly, the first genuine surprise he'd witnessed from the formidable woman. Well, she said after a moment's observation. That answers one question definitively. Does it change anything? Naruto asked practically. Everything and nothing, she replied with surprising candidness. House Tyrell thrives through careful alliance with prevailing powers. Currently, multiple potential victors exist in this war. Your confirmation as Targaryen adds another variable requiring consideration. I'm not seeking the throne, Naruto reiterated. Perhaps not actively, she acknowledged. But your mere existence represents a claim others might advance with or without your cooperation. The Game of Thrones rarely respects personal preferences. Their conversation concluded with pragmatic understanding. House Tyrell would neither oppose nor openly support Naruto's journey to Dorne, maintaining strategic neutrality until clearer advantages emerged. Additionally, they would provide discreet assistance locating information about crossing the narrow sea toward Daenerys Targaryen's last known position. A final observation, Olenna said as Naruto prepared to depart. You've made quite an impression on my granddaughter, no small accomplishment given her exposure to the realm's most eligible nobility. Consider carefully what alliances might benefit your position beyond mere political advantage. The implication registered clearly, though Naruto maintained diplomatic composure. Lady Marjorie's intelligence and perspective are indeed impressive. More than you yet realize, Olenna replied with knowing satisfaction. She sees potential where others observe only immediate circumstances. 3 days at Highgarden extended into a week as winter storms made travel inadvisable. During this unexpected interlude, relationships evolved in unexpected directions. Arya found surprising common ground with several young noble daughters fostered at Highgarden, particularly those receiving unconventional education in herbalism and household management that occasionally bordered on strategic poison application. Lady Olenna believes girls should understand all aspects of protection, one such student confided during an archery session Arya had joined. Both defensive and offensive. Smart woman, Arya approved, loosing an arrow that struck impressively near center target. Most men underestimate what they consider women's knowledge until it kills them. Ygritte adapted to Highgarden's sophisticated environment with surprising flexibility, though she remained conspicuously armed at all times. Her practical knowledge of wilderness survival and hunting techniques earned reluctant respect from Tyrell master-at-arms, while her distinctive appearance attracted considerable curiosity from household staff. They stare because I'm free, she explained when Naruto commented on the attention she received. These kneelers spend lives serving others' ambitions. The concept of woman answering to no lord seems foreign as your fire magic. Meanwhile, Naruto's interactions with Marjorie deepened beyond political convenience. Daily walks through winter gardens provided opportunity for conversations ranging from philosophical governance theories to practical agricultural innovations. Her intelligence matched her beauty, while genuine curiosity about his homeland revealed a mind eager for knowledge beyond Westeros's limited horizons. Your description of hidden villages operating independently while maintaining alliance structures sounds more practical than our Seven Kingdoms model, she observed during one such discussion. Though I imagine it creates different complications. Every system develops unique problems, Naruto acknowledged. In my world, villages sometimes prioritize their interests above collective security until external threats forced cooperation. Human nature remains consistent across worlds, it seems, she noted with wry amusement. Self-interest competing with communal benefit. With occasional examples of transcendent cooperation, he added optimistically. Marjorie's answering smile held genuine warmth rather than political calculation. I find your persistent hope rather refreshing amid current cynicism. Their growing connection did not escape Ariane's notice. During private council regarding departure plans, the Dornish princess addressed the matter directly. House Tyrell offers significant advantages as potential allies, she acknowledged pragmatically. Though their loyalty historically shifts with prevailing winds. I'm not pursuing political alliance through personal relationships, Naruto clarified, somewhat uncomfortably. Ariane's expression combined skepticism with amusement. Intention matters less than perception in these matters. Lady Marjorie's interest appears genuine, certainly, but never separate from House Tyrell's broader strategies. Like your own interest. Naruto countered gently. Instead of taking offense, Ariane laughed with surprising genuineness. Touché. Though Dorne approaches alliances differently than the Reach. We value passion alongside practicality, recognizing that genuine connection strengthens political bonds rather than undermining them. The princess's candid acknowledgement of her dual motivations, political advantage alongside personal interest, somehow made her approach more appealing than pure calculation or empty sentiment. Her straightforward recognition of complexity reflected a maturity Naruto appreciated. On their final evening at Highgarden, a private farewell dinner in Olena's solar brought key players together one last time. Conversation flowed more naturally after days of cautious relationship building, though political undercurrents remained ever present. Reports from King's Landing suggest Cersei Lannister grows increasingly paranoid, Olenna revealed, sharing intelligence as gesture of developing trust. The city suffered serious riots following Princess Myrcella's departure for Dorne. Dornish shores remain well protected, Ariane noted with subtle satisfaction. The princess enjoys our hospitality under appropriate security. Meanwhile, Stannis Baratheon rebuilds forces after his defeat on the Blackwater, Loras added. His Red Priestess allegedly performs blood magic to strengthen his position. The mention of blood magic drew Naruto's attention. What kind of magic? Unnatural fires, shadow assassins, death curses, if rumors hold truth, Marjorie elaborated. Though separating fact from frightened. Exaggeration proves difficult. Fire magic takes different forms, Naruto observed thoughtfully. Some creative, others destructive. The intent shapes manifestation as much as the technique itself. You speak from experience, Olenna noted perceptively. In my world, elemental affinities determine which techniques work best for different shinobi, Naruto explained. Fire, water, earth, wind, lightning, each requires different mindset and approach. And yours? Marjorie inquired. Originally wind, he answered. Though that's changed since arriving here. Fire responds most naturally now. Targaryen blood asserting dominance, Ariane suggested. Fire and blood, the house words reflect elemental connection. As dinner concluded, Olenna presented departure gifts with characteristic practicality, detailed maps of safer routes to Dorne, letters of passage through Tyrell-controlled territories, and information regarding ships regularly crossing the narrow sea toward Slaver's Bay where Daenerys was reportedly last seen. Consider House Tyrell potentially receptive to future discussions, she stated diplomatically. Particularly as circumstances evolve regarding certain throne-related questions. Private farewells followed. Marjorie requested Naruto's company in the Stargazer's Tower, Highgarden's highest point where astronomical observations occurred during clearer seasons. Currently empty due to winter cloud cover, it offered rare privacy amid the castle's constant observation. I wanted to give you this without grandmother's political commentary, she explained, presenting a small leather-bound book. Historical accounts of Targaryen diplomatic visits to Essos, including detailed descriptions of eastern cities you might encounter. Knowledge often proves more valuable than gold when navigating unfamiliar territories. The thoughtful practicality of her gift touched Naruto deeply. Thank you. This will be incredibly useful. I've marked passages describing Valyrian artifacts rumored to respond to dragon blood, she added. They might help locate your aunt more efficiently than random searching. Moonlight breaking through momentary cloud gaps illuminated her features, intelligence and beauty combined with genuine concern that transcended political calculation. In that moment, Naruto recognized the complexity of connections forming in this world, relationships simultaneously political and personal, strategic and emotional. I hope our paths cross again under better circumstances, Marjorie said softly. Perhaps when wars have ended and rebuilding begins. I'd like that, Naruto replied sincerely. Their farewell included no dramatic declarations or passionate embraces, merely shared understanding of possibilities that circumstances might never allow to develop fully. As Naruto descended the tower stairs, he reflected on how quickly meaningful connections could form even across cultural divides. You're collecting quite the diverse admirers, Kurama observed with unusual humor. The healing woman from Volantis at Winterfell, the Dornish princess, the wildling hunter, now the Rose of Highgarden. Not exactly my intention, Naruto replied privately. Intention rarely determines attraction, the fox noted philosophically. Your natural qualities draw others regardless of political considerations. An advantage in building genuine alliances rather than merely strategic ones. Dawn brought departure preparations, horses refreshed, supplies replenished, escort arrangements finalized. As their party assembled in Highgarden's outer courtyard, Naruto noticed a conspicuous absence. Where's Arya? The question triggered immediate search throughout the castle. An hour later, a stable boy reported the young Stark had departed before first light, taking a swift mount and supplies for extended journey. She left this, Loras reported, presenting a folded parchment bearing Naruto's name. The note explained her decision with characteristic directness. Naruto, while you continue to Dorne seeking answers about dragons, my sister remains captive in King's Landing. I've learned what I needed from you and from Highgarden. The Tyrells provide regular supply caravans to the capital, perfect cover for someone my size who knows how to remain unseen. Don't try following. By the time you read this, I'll be well along the Rose Road with people who don't know to watch for me. I'll use everything you taught me about moving silently and fighting smartly. We'll meet again when we've both finished what we need to do. Arya Stark, willful child, Arianne sighed upon hearing the contents. Though admittedly determined. We must send riders after her, Loras insisted. A Stark alone during wartime risks becoming valuable hostage. She won't be found if she doesn't wish to be, Naruto replied, recognizing the truth behind Arya's confidence. And pursuing might expose her position rather than securing her safety. After lengthy discussion, compromise emerged. Tyrell scouts would monitor the Rose Road discreetly while reporting any unusual activity near supply caravans, but without obvious search parties that might draw unwanted attention to potential Stark presence. The girl survived following us through mountain passes without detection, Ygritte noted practically. She has wolf blood in your training. Not helpless as these sovereigns imagine. Though concern remained, their departure proceeded as planned, now -1 determined young Stark. The journey from Highgarden toward Dornish marches would require another week through territories less firmly controlled than Tyrell heartlands. As they rode beneath Highgarden's outer gate, Marjorie and Olenna watched from the battlements, the younger woman raising her hand in subtle farewell while the elder observed with calculating assessment of future possibilities. Complicated women, Ygritte commented, noting Naruto's backward glance. All women are complicated, he replied thoughtfully. And men too, when you know them well enough. True words, she acknowledged with rare approval. Though some complications prove more dangerous than others. The wildling woman's pragmatic perspective had grown increasingly valuable as their journey progressed. Unlike Ariane's political calculations or Marjorie's cultured diplomacy, Ygritte evaluated situations with unfiltered directness and survival-oriented clarity. Their route took them through progressively changing landscapes, the Reach's cultivated abundance gradually yielding to rockier terrain as they approached Dornish borders. Weather patterns shifted as well, winter's grip weakening as they traveled southward until snow appeared only on distant peaks. 6 days into their journey from Highgarden, disaster struck without warning. Their party had made camp in a sheltered valley when Naruto's enhanced senses detected approaching danger mere moments before attack. Ambush, he shouted, shadow clones materializing instantly around their perimeter. Arrows blackened the sky as at least 40 attackers descended from surrounding ridgelines. Unlike previous encounters with clearly identified forces, these assailants bore mixed equipment and mismatched armor, sellswords or bandits rather than kingdom forces. Protect the princess. Martell guards formed defensive formation around Ariane while Naruto's clones intercepted the initial assault wave. Combat erupted across the campsite, disciplined Dornish spearmen holding central position while Tyrell escorts engaged flanking attackers. Naruto moved with shinobi speed between hotspots, golden flames engulfing his hands as he neutralized enemies with precise strikes. Hired killers, Ygritte assessed, loosing arrows with deadly accuracy from elevated position atop a supply wagon. Professional equipment despite appearances. Targeting someone specific, Naruto agreed, deflecting a crossbow bolt with chakra-enhanced kunai. Their suspicion proved correct when attackers focused efforts toward Ariane's position despite easier targets elsewhere. More concerning, these assailants demonstrated unusual resistance to conventional wounds, continuing attacks despite injuries that should have incapacitated normal combatants. Something's wrong with them, one Martell guard shouted as his spear penetrated an attacker's chest without slowing the man's advance. Entering Sage mode, Naruto immediately identified the problem, subtle chakra patterns indicating enhancement beyond natural human capability. Someone had modified these mercenaries with crude but effective combat stimulants bordering on forbidden techniques. They're enhanced, he called to Ariane. Fall back to defensible position while I clear path. Creating additional shadow clones, Naruto formed multiple Rasengan variants, each tailored to specific battlefield needs. Standard versions neutralized individual opponents, while larger variants cleared entire sections of battlefield. Most significantly, he developed a modified technique that disrupted the artificial enhancement sustaining enemy combatants. Rasen Shintai. The new technique, spiraling body disruption, manifested as a Rasengan surrounded by counter-rotating rings of golden fire that specifically targeted unnatural energy patterns. When applied to enhanced attackers, it instantly neutralized their modifications, returning them to normal human limitations. The battle's tide turned dramatically as Naruto systematically cleared enemy forces with this specialized approach. Victory came at cost, however. 8 Dornish and Tyrell escorts lay dead, with another dozen wounded. Among the injured was Dazil Sand, the young soldier whose previous wounds had barely healed from Shadowcat attack. Poison, Ariane identified, examining blackened veins spreading from a shallow cut on his forearm. Unusual variety I don't recognize. Nor I, admitted their party's healer, face grim as she applied conventional treatments with minimal effect. Ygritte crouched beside them, examining the wound with practical experience. Seen similar among dens beyond the wall. Milky tree sap mixed with certain mushrooms. Slow-acting but eventually fatal without proper treatment. What treatment works? Naruto asked urgently. Blood of the poisoner traditionally, she answered pragmatically. Or certain roots found near hot springs in northern territories. Neither option seemed available, with attackers either dead or fled and nearest hot springs hundreds of miles distant. Daziel's condition deteriorated rapidly, skin graying as poison entered his bloodstream despite tourniquets and poultices. There might be another way, Naruto said, recalling techniques Sakura had once demonstrated. But it's dangerous and might not work in this realm. He dies. Certainly without intervention, Ariane noted, giving implicit permission to attempt unproven methods. Kneeling beside the wounded man, Naruto placed both hands over the poisoned wound. Unlike his previous healing attempts that manifested as gentle golden flames, this technique required precise chakra control to systematically extract poison from bloodstream. This will hurt, he warned Daziel, who nodded weakly through pain-glazed eyes. The process proved agonizing for both patient and healer. Naruto's chakra entered Daziel's system as microscopic filaments that located and isolated toxins before drawing them outward through the original wound. Black fluid accumulated above Naruto's palm in a hovering sphere of corrupted material extracted from Daziel's bloodstream. Sweat poured down Naruto's face as the delicate procedure continued nearly an hour, requiring concentration beyond anything he'd attempted in this realm. When finally complete, he collapsed backward, exhausted but successful, a baseball-sized orb of extracted poison hovering briefly before he sealed it within an empty water skin for later analysis. Impressive technique, Ariane commented softly as their healer tended Daziel's now clean wound. Far beyond conventional medicine. Medical ninjutsu, Naruto explained between labored breaths. Though I'm hardly expert compared to true medical nin in my world. Recovery required full days' delay in sheltered position while wounds were treated and defenses reinforced. Examination of fallen attackers revealed few identifying features beyond crude tattoos of divided circle that matched no known house sigil. Professional killers without obvious allegiance, Ariane observed during council meeting that evening. Yet clearly targeting me specifically rather than our party generally. Multiple possibilities, Naruto analyzed. Lannisters eliminating potential Martell-Stark alliance. Rivals within Dorne opposed to your diplomatic initiatives. Even religious factions threatened by potential Targaryen restoration. Or someone wanting to prevent you reaching your Dragon Queen aunt, Ygritte suggested practically. Many would fear such family reunion considering stories from across the sea. Whatever the motivation, the attack necessitated route changes and heightened vigilance as they approached Dornish territories. Ariane dispatched messengers toward nearby Martell outposts requesting additional escort for final leg of journey. 2 days later, they crossed into Dorne properly, terrain shifting dramatically from fertile highlands to rocky expanses where heat shimmer distorted distant horizons despite winter elsewhere. Native red sandstone formations created natural fortifications, while sparse vegetation adapted to minimal rainfall dotted landscape between seasonal stream beds. Home, Ariane sighed with evident relief as familiar landmarks appeared. The Prince's Pass lies ahead, then Sunspear beyond. Their reinforced party now included 20 additional Dornish guards who had intercepted them at border, seasoned fighters familiar with regional hazards both natural and human. Their captain, a weathered man named Demon, approached Naruto with professional curiosity. "We've heard interesting reports about your abilities," he commented during evening meal. "Fire without oil, healing without maesters, fighting without traditional weaponry." "Some exaggerated, I'm sure," Naruto replied modestly. "Perhaps," Demon acknowledged. "Though exaggeration typically contains kernel of truth. Dorne appreciates uncommon talents, regardless of origin." The captain's acceptance reflected broader Dornish attitudes they encountered, greater tolerance for differences compared to northern kingdoms, alongside pragmatic appreciation for useful abilities regardless of conventional expectations. As desert heat replaced winter's chill, Naruto noticed significant changes in his capabilities. Fire techniques manifested with startling potency, while his stamina and recovery rates improved dramatically. Even Sage Mode activated more readily, as if Dorne's environment somehow resonated with both his chakra nature and Targaryen heritage. Dragon blood responds to ancestral territory, Kurama theorized. The Targaryens may have originated from regions resembling this landscape before conquering westward. Dorne was the last kingdom to join the Seven Kingdoms, Arianne confirmed when Naruto inquired about historical Targaryen connections. We resisted dragon fire through guerrilla tactics and desert advantages until eventually joining through marriage alliance rather than conquest. So Dorne has Targaryen bloodlines. Scattered throughout noble houses, she acknowledged. Though more concentrated in certain lineages than others. The subtle implication regarding her own heritage remained diplomatically unstated, though increasingly obvious as their journey continued. Arianne's interest in Naruto had evolved beyond political calculation into genuine fascination with both his abilities and character, appreciation he found himself increasingly reciprocating despite cultural differences. Ygritte observed these developing dynamics with characteristic bluntness. Southern courtship rituals waste considerable time, she noted during private conversation while they scouted passage through particularly rugged terrain. Free folk simply express interest directly, then determine compatibility practically. Different cultures develop different approaches, Naruto replied diplomatically. Including yours, she inquired with unusual directness. How do people in your world determine suitable partners? The unexpected personal question prompted thoughtful consideration. Varies significantly between villages and social positions. Some arrange marriages strategically, others allow individual choice based on compatibility and mutual feelings. And you personally? Her keen eyes studied his expression with unfiltered interest. I've had complicated relationships, Naruto admitted, thinking of Hinata's unrequited feelings and his own youthful pursuit of Sakura. Circumstances and responsibilities often complicated personal connections. Sounds remarkably similar to complications here, Ygritte observed perceptively. Different worlds, similar human experiences. The wildling woman's straightforward perspective cut through cultural pretense to fundamental truths Naruto increasingly appreciated. Unlike Arianne's political sophistication or Marjorie's culture diplomacy, Ygritte approached life with refreshing directness that reminded him of his own younger self before responsibilities tempered impulsivity. Their journey through Dornish territories proceeded swiftly with local guides navigating optimal routes. 8 days after crossing the border, they approached their destination, Sunspear, ancestral seat of House Martell rising from rocky coastline where azure waters met golden sands. Unlike Winterfell's stark pragmatism or Highgarden's cultivated beauty, Sunspear embodied different architectural philosophy altogether. Domed towers incorporating Rhoynish water gardens stood alongside ancient fortifications of undulled design, while Valyrian decorative elements adorned newer structures, physical representation of Dorne's blended cultural heritage. The Sandship, Arianne identified their primary destination, oldest section of the palace complex resembling ancient vessel petrified mid-voyage across stone seas. Where House Martell has governed for 1,000 years, and where answers regarding your Targaryen heritage await. As they passed through Sunspear's outer defenses, Naruto felt strange sense of anticipation, not merely reaching journey's end, but approaching crucial revelations regarding his connection to this world and the path toward his inevitable meeting with Daenerys Targaryen across the narrow sea. The dragon's path unfolds before you, Kurama observed as palace gates open to receive their party. Though whether it leads homeward or deeper into this realm's complexities remains unclear. Either way, Naruto replied silently, we face it together. Sunspear's reception differed significantly from previous experiences, neither Winterfell's cautious welcome nor Highgarden's calculated hospitality, but something more directly passionate. Prince Doran Martell might rule Dorne officially, but his brother Oberyn, the infamous Red Viper, received them in the palace courtyard with characteristic flamboyance. My beloved niece returns with the rumored dragon child, he declared, embracing Arianne affectionately before turning evaluating eyes toward Naruto. Though he seems more fox than dragon at first glance. Appearances often deceive, uncle, Arianne replied with meaningful emphasis. As you've demonstrated throughout your own colorful history. Oberyn laughed appreciatively before approaching Naruto directly, circling him with undisguised curiosity. Interesting. Not traditional Targaryen coloring, yet something in the jawline reminds me of Rhaegar. The whiskered marks are particularly unusual. A legacy from my other world, Naruto explained simply. Yes, these fantastic tales we've heard. Oberyn's expression combined skepticism with intrigue. Other realms, strange powers, lost princes returning through magical means. Normally I'd dismiss such stories as creative fabrication, but recent years have taught me to reconsider what's possible. His gaze shifted to Ygritte, standing slightly apart from their main party. And a wildling woman far from her northern territories. Dorne grows increasingly cosmopolitan in interesting times. She provided invaluable assistance throughout our journey, Naruto stated firmly, recognizing potential for dismissive treatment. Any companion you value is welcome in Sunspear, Oberyn assured him with characteristic Dornish inclusivity. We appreciate capable women regardless of origin. Initial formalities complete, they were escorted into Sunspear's inner chambers where servants had prepared welcoming feast incorporating spiced Dornish cuisine utterly unlike northern fare. Multiple courses featured combinations of heat and the end. Thank you for watching this video. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video.